I was one of the Native American children, adopted at birth and removed from our country's Indian reservation system. I was raised in a small middle-class farming community, but was never told of my true American Indian heritage. It was still taboo back in those early days. The years passed, and in 1987 I lost both parents. While going through their personal belongings, my wife discovered my adoption papers and she began a search. 5 years later, I was reunited with my biological Lakota family, living on the Lower Brule Sioux Indian Reservation of South Dakota. I am a son of two mothers and a product of two worlds that had collided, but I have an equal amount of love and pride for both. I'm Paul LaRoche, and the stories you are about to see are an attempt to share this true American story of a hidden heritage. Over the years, one of our favorite art shows that we attended on an annual basis was the Texas Indian Market. The show was held in Arlington, Texas, in the convention center in the shadow of the old Texas Ranger Stadium. The show would attract thousands of visitors over 3 days. For the artists, it was more of a family reunion than an art show. On our 2010 visit, we had a chance to walk through the show and visit with many of the artists. Following are the interviews.
My name is Ernie Apodaca from Blackfeet Nation, and I've been doing this for 38 years now.
I can tell. It's like it's been something that you refined and got down to a fine art.
What can I say? I've been doing this since I was in the teens and came from Seattle where it was cold and wet. This was a very rewarding trade. It was dry, it was clean. I got my own upholstery shop, and about 16 years ago it burned down through arson, and it was a life-changing event. I went through a treatment center and got clean and sober, and had a vision in treatment, and this is the result. I brought my art, my talents to different Native American artists' talents. And I brought like the Lakotas, the ledger art, I brought the Tlingit with the tooling, or with the inlaid abalone and the carvings, and I have Blackfeet. I have a lot of different nations that I've brought to life in my what I call functional art.
I'm Van Martin, and I've taken, and this is, I've been with Randy ever since he started, since he did the first show here, which is how many years?
It's the 20th year.
Yeah, the 20th year. Been with Randy for 20 years. Yep, been with the show ever since it started.
All right. Yep. So let's tell me a little bit about your artwork.
Okay, this here is bristlecone. This is the oldest living tree on Mother Earth. They've actually carbon dated the wood to 1900 years before the pyramids were built. I take, and what I look for in my forms is the naturalness, and the only man-made thing on the pieces are just the eyes and the hooks that we use to hook them with.
If somebody wants to get a hold of you and ask a little bit more about some of what they're going to see on this program, how do they do that? Do you have a website or a phone
Yep,
number?
we have a website. The phone number probably work, 303-771-2752. Ask for Van or Liz.
Sure, my name is Joseph BeGay.
All right.
Native carver from New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Albuquerque.
All right.
And my company is Sunrise Stone Carving. This is my work here.
You got some beautiful things here.
Thank you, sir.
Stone carvings.
Been carving for over 20 years.
Is that right? Is it part of the family?
No, I'm more self-taught. So I've been I mostly do Navajo carvings, like domestic animals and stuff like that, horses, bears, and rams and sheep and stuff like that. So.
They're very eye-catching.
Yes, and yeah, thank you again.
You do a wonderful job.
Alrighty.
And who's all with you now? Do you have family members here?
No, just on my own, sir.
Buddies?
No, yeah, I got some good friends of mine. My traveling buddies, so.
This is your security.
Oh, yeah.
Security guy over there?
Yeah, my co-pilot, you might say.
Raymond Twin Horse.
And whereabouts you from?
I'm riding between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, a place called San Felipe, Gotcha.
Sounds like it's
yeah, it's right off the rest there.
All right. So tell me a little bit about what kind of work you do.
Well, I do silver, my work, and the lady does the beading. There's some of my work. I'm part Zuni, so I guess that would be indicative that I am Zuni with this style work called petit point.
What's that called?
petty point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Now there's the needle point. The edges are more sharper. And then the style petty point is what I have here. There's more inlay here. This is an adjustable bracelet.
Oh, that's neat.
My design and have the copyright symbol on it since it's so unique.
That's a good idea.
You can tug and pull, and that protects the inlay.
Yep.
And of course the plain silver. And here's my trademark here.
That's your trademark.
Yeah, eagle. And all cut out, cut back in. It's very unique.
Well, as you can see, I do some big stuff that are carvings out of Portuguese marble.
Portuguese marble?
Yeah, the 3 big piece was a big old 900-pound block. And what I did is I sliced it in 3s and actually make 3 pieces out of it.
You did? Now, where do you find that particular?
Well, there's a gentleman out of California, an Italian friend of mine, who deals in exotic stones that I can't get my hands on, so I go through him.
Good for you. Now, what kind of tools do you use when you start carving this thing up?
I use a lot of hand and chisels, power tools. You know, I've always believed that Michelangelo had electricity. You know, he'd be standing there with a 9-inch grinder. So.
That's pretty cool. I like that. That's a good thing to say. That's a good way to work.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If somebody wants to get a hold of you after the show's over, do you have a website or a phone number or anything that they...
Well, as a matter of fact, I had a full-time job. I got laid off, so within the last 11 months, you know, I picked this back up. So that part of my business is going to come in due time.
Good for you.
Yeah, Mark Stevens.
Mark Stevens, and whereabouts are you from?
I'm from the Laguna Pueblo tribe in Mexico, just west of Albuquerque.
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now tell me a little bit about your booth. And
Sure.
what you've all got here.
My wife started about 10 years ago. She started beading like this here, and I used to go out and do the wholesale. I'd knock on the doors. I started in Old Town Albuquerque, just beating on the doors, you know, to get the business going. And eventually, at one point, we had about 25 stores coast to coast that carried her line of jewelry. So after 5 years of that, she said, you should try silversmithing. So I took a course. I learned how to silversmith. I had the fortune of learning from a lot of veterans at home. And then after 2 years into my career, something tremendous came to me. I had a gift that came to me, was revealed to do what I do now, which is replicate these ancient pottery shards. It's something that's never been done before. So, yeah, it was awesome. It's, you know, it was cool to be able to have a gift of something new that had never been done and given to me to create. And so that's what I stuck with, and that's what my work is known for now, is these pottery shard replicas.
I'm Shannon Stevens, and I'm from Laguna Pueblo, and like my husband said, I've been doing this for about 10 years. He's been doing this for about 5 years now, but we both had regular corporate jobs before we started doing this, and now we've been very fortunate that we've been able to continue doing this for 5 years now, and I don't want to go back to work.
And I hope you don't ever have to. I'm right with you on that.
I would much rather do this. Thank you.
Everything's beautiful, and you do good graphic work too.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, my name is Gil Birmingham. I'm originally here from San Antonio, Texas. My father was in the military, so we moved around a lot. Lived in Alaska, Hawaii, Kentucky, San Francisco, and ultimately ended up in Los Angeles. I am an aspiring musician, have been since I was about 10 years old, and I had the good fortune of getting introduced to the creative expression of the acting world, and have been very lucky with some of my success, and some of it a lot of people have heard of, the Twilight Saga. Well, I've been acting for about 15 years. Some of my prouder moments, I guess, are some of the native projects I've done with Chris Eyre, Skins, Doughboy, with Randy Redroad, and Into the West, a Steven Spielberg produced movie series, and then Dreamkeeper. So I know a lot of the people in the native community are familiar with those. And then more recently, the whole Twilight Saga.
Let's back up a little bit about your music.
Okay.
Your instrument of choice?
Guitar. Got to be guitar.
And how about your favorite genre of music?
I was heavily influenced by Jimi Hendrix, as a lot of guitar players were, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton.
So you're kind of an old blues man. Maybe.
I am. I love that stuff. Thank you.
Now, if people want to check out more about you, your schedule, your events coming up, projects, music, where do we send them?
I have a Facebook, I have a MySpace, I have a Twitter. So it's all under Gil Birmingham. I post up all my events and all the activities I'll be involved in and where I'll be, and you can follow me there.
My name is Arvill Bird. I was born in Idaho but raised in Utah and Arizona. And my mother is Shivwit Paiute, and my grandmother and her were both born just outside of St. George, where the Shivwit Paiute Reservation is. And then on my father's side, my ancestors go back to the Scottish Highlands, the County Ayr and the Clan Kennedy. So my grandmother was traded to the Mormon family for a horse and buggy. And so she was raised outside the tribe by the Mormons, and which was fine. She became totally assimilated into their ideas and didn't really know her relatives in the Paiute people. In fact, she was actually afraid of them. She was afraid that they were going to come to her house and take her kids, my mother and her brother and sister, back to the reservation. So when her aunt would come with vegetables and fruit from the Paiute farm, she would make the kids hide under the bed and lock the screen door and only talk to them from the screen door. And so they would leave the food on the porch and go away. And so we didn't know much about our Paiute heritage, although I knew I was Paiute growing up because my mother was dark, looked like a full-blood. She wouldn't speak about it and was resentful when anyone asked her about it. So it wasn't until I got into my adult years that I became really interested in it and wanted to know more about that side of my heritage. And truthfully, the more that I studied it and learned about it and went to the reservation and talked to elders, the more affinity I discovered I had for it. And the more I felt like that was my identity. That's what had been missing in my life. And truly, I think that was missing in my mom's life too, because she was really a chronically depressed and angry and sad person. And when I started to walk the Red Road, when I started performing on the powwow circuit and honoring my heritage and talking about the Paiutes, then she began to come around. She began to see the pride in that. I gave her a hat that said, "Proud to be Paiute." And she wore that. And at one of my performances in Phoenix, where she was sitting among a lot of native people at the Pueblo Indian Grande art market, and I was performing, she told my daughter that it was good to be among her people.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear.
I was trained classically for 11 years, and then as I began to leave the classical music to find more freedom of expression in my own music, I began to experiment, and my first composition, which I now perform as the Tribal Music Suite, was a blend of both my classical music and the genres of Celtic music and old-time mountain music and folk music that I was experimenting with at the time. And that blend has continued on through my music over the years.
Do you have a name for it?
I don't. I think that Celtic music comes through my violin playing just naturally. I don't have to try to put it in, it's just there. And for a while I tried to fight that, and pretty soon I realized, well, that's my style. So I just go with it now. And you know, for a long time, like many people, I carried the baggage of not being good enough, but that's because I was comparing myself to other fiddle players, other musicians. And finally I grew up and matured enough to realize that, well, they don't play like me. I don't have to play like them. I do what I do, and that's all that's important.
Steve Rivas. Well, I worked on Dances with Wolves, Last of the Dogmen, Geronimo, The Longest Yard, The Missing, and I worked on one that was in November. It's called either Monster Wolf or Fire Fright, and it's going to be on a sci-fi channel.
My name is Miss Rivas, and I'm a designer. I do this kind of clothing. It's all hand-painted originals, Native American style, and we come and do these shows together, and we have our family members that are going to be you futurely who are viewing us, and we really look forward to meeting you.
Hey, my name is Alan Eaglewolf Bryant. I'm originally from Texas. My ancestors are from Tennessee. A couple of years ago, I was contacted by a lady by the name of Cassie Edwards, and I thought it was maybe a fan of hers, and she told me she did Native American historical romance novels, and she asked if I would be on the cover. And the more I spoke to her and the more that I knew that in her stories, she would do lots of research. She's done years of research on the Native American history, and so when I saw that how much pride and honor she would write in the stories about what truly happened, I accepted, and I thought, well, this is a great thing.
What a treat. My name is Bill Keitel. I'm from Worthington, Minnesota, about an hour from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and my wife and I, Lori, have been in the leather business for 38 years. I'm a shoe repairman by trade, and I worked doing prescription build-up work originally on orthopedic sorts of things, and switched from that to buffalo leather and cowhide, and over the years we've produced leather goods made of buffalo, and because of my shoe repair background, our billfolds, we think, tend to last 3 or 4 times longer than a drugstore variety. Probably 11, 12 years ago, we have some friends that raise buffalo, and they encouraged me. In fact, they're the people that, some of the people are from the Triple U Ranch in Fort Pierre, where Dances with Wolves is filmed. And they said, boy, you know, you should really be working with buffalo. And I worked with it a little bit. It's a little trickier to work with than some types of leather, but it's an animal, actually, that we all know is indigenous to the North American continent. And if I can add just an interesting Native American fact to this, that nowhere else would anybody be interested in this. However, I think you might be, and that is the minute we went from cowhide to buffalo hide, it's a curious thing that happened. I hope you'll appreciate this, but steer and cows are rectangular in shape, and they're perfect for mass production and making upholstery and everything. And buffaloes, if you think of the shape of a buffalo, when you cut the hide in half, it's more triangular shaped. And now, this is my own, I surmise this myself, there's no fact to it, but you think of Native Americans, and you think of teepees, and you think of triangles, and you think, and all of a sudden, the stuff that we work with tends to be smaller pieces, and we are able to utilize that in our leather work. It's a little trickier to work with, but we've enjoyed it over the years, and have been really excited and blessed with just all the people that we've met out on the road because of our interest in buffalo.
Gosh, well, that's an interesting fact. You know, the buffalo is kind of narrow at the hips, big at the shoulders.
Absolutely.
Much like myself.
Yeah.
But, I have to say this right now. I know I can personally attest
for
your product.
Oh my gosh.
See that right there?
Oh, wait a minute.
No?
I see. Just a minute. Just a minute.
Yep.
Okay, there, I feel better now. Okay, there, I feel better.
This has been field tested for 2 good years.
Okay, in fact,
good as new.
In fact, that's prairie rattlesnake on that. That isn't diamondback, that's prairie rattlesnake.
Right.
In fact, that comes from Fort Pierre, South Dakota, so that's within miles of your ancestral homeland.
Our stomping ground.
Yes, yes.
Stomping ground.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that opportunity. It's called BuffaloBillfoldCompany.com.
All right.
Once again, thanks again for your interest in our products.
Now, one last thing, Bill, before we fit here today. I know that you've got another talent behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That has also a story to it. In just a minute, we're going to find a spot where maybe we can get you to play a quick little tune or two.
We'll do that.
All right.
I can feel the excitement in the air.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
Talk to you in a minute. Thanks.
You got it. Just take it away.
About 18 years ago, I saw a street musician playing on an orange crate, and that's when I got the idea that maybe I could build a drum that's strong enough to sit on but sound like a real drum, not an orange crate. So it took me 2 years to develop this, and I started selling it, And now everybody sells it. Even the big companies sell them.
And you're getting a royalty off all those sales?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I wish. I wish.
Thank you for joining us today on Hidden Heritage. I'm your host, Paul LaRoche, reminding you that if you enjoyed the podcast, share us with your friends and help us spread the word. Till next time, from all of us in Brule, thank you.